Good afternoon. I'm Christine Taylor Lewis, and on behalf of the Afro-American Historical Association of Fauquier County, I greet you in the spirit of joy, and I thank you for supporting us and joining us today. I welcome you to this, our fourth in a series of conversations with family historians who will talk to us about their genealogy research and other information related to family histories. Now, part of our mission here at AAHA is to collect, document, preserve, and share U.S. history with a focus on the African-American experience in Fauquier County. And our hope is that this series of Zoom calls, these presentations will encourage you or in some way inspire you to visit our website at aahafauquier.org. and explore the extensive amount of information that we have available to you. For example, the virtual tour of our museum is available, and the tour contains at least, the museum has over 1,600 artifacts there. Also on our website is our interactive story map with individual histories of the African Americans in Fauquier County neighborhoods, schools, and the churches. And our online database contains thousands of photographs and thousands upon thousands of documents, including vital records, voter lists, names of the enslaved, those who were freed. So there's plenty of information for those who are interested in exploring your genealogy and your family history. So join us, if you will, at aahafauquier.org. Now, before introducing today's guest, we'd like to take the opportunity again to acknowledge Black History Month by stating that the Afro-American Historical Association of Fauquier County encourages everyone to continue studying African-American history. This year's national theme is Black Health and Wellness. We salute our nation's countless healthcare workers, regardless of their role, who have dedicated so many hours to the care of all patients, especially those during the COVID-19 pandemic. So on behalf of the African American Historical Association of Fauquier County's Board of Directors, our staff, our volunteers, donors, and members, we say thank you to each and every member of the healthcare profession. Your service, your sacrifices, and your staying power is very much appreciated. So now we will introduce our guest for today, Dennis King. Now, Dennis Dean King was born in Detroit, Michigan, attended Detroit Public Schools, and graduated from Wayne State University School of Education with a degree in early education. He has been a teacher in the Detroit Public Schools for upwards of 20 years. Dennis has been involved in genealogy and family research for about 20 years. Having been brought up in a religious environment, his interest in genealogy was sparked when he read about the genealogy of Jesus Christ in the Bible. In 2002, when asked by his father to create a family tree of the Kings, a flame was kindled and it grows and glows even today. But Dennis traveled from Detroit to Fauquier County and interviewed his aunt, Patsy King, Baltimore, who was the native of African Mountain. From there, he began the trail leading to Windsor King, Dennis's third great-grandfather, who was an enslaved man born in Fauquier County in 1772. By now, the King family tree membership is well into the thousands. In today's presentation, A Blueprint of Myself, Dennis will guide us through the journey of his quest to plant the King family tree. Along with the discussion of the Windsor King family lines will be names of farms, landowners, slaveholders, the enslaved, connections to Africa, and much more. At this point, I would like to introduce you to Dennis Dean King. Hello, Dennis.
Hey, how are you?
It's good to see you.
Pleasure as well.
And we truly appreciate you taking out the time today to come and join us in this series of events of genealogy and the study of family history. And we know that you have an enormous amount of information to share with us, and that your roots in Fauquier County, while you weren't born here, are deep in the King family. And they spread not only throughout the surrounding counties, but throughout the country as well. So thank you for joining us. And at this time, I'll turn the events over to you to go forward in your own way.
All right. First of all, we want to honor those that asked us to be presenters today. We want to thank Christine. We want to thank Karen. We want to thank the African-American Museum staff and all those that took time today just to be on the program today. We want to say we appreciate all of you for being here. I'm somewhat of a disadvantage. One is because my mouse won't work, and our reunion book is a wealth of information. Show some of that to you. I shared when Christine asked me to do this. She said she wanted me to focus on just the Fauquier Kings, and I told her I cannot do that unless I give the background of how I began to get started, what took my interest, and why I am interested. And some of that came out of because of my religious upbringing. One, when I was a kid, I was angry because I used to hear the stories about that blacks are black because of a curse of Cain, of Cush. And when I got into the Bible and started looking into it, then I started looking at it in another perspective, and where I became proud as an individual. And when we say in blueprint, we're talking about how you become who you are. And anyway, so I was angry that I was black, and was angry at God that I didn't come from some other ethnicity and everything. And so as I got into the story in Genesis account, when I read, in my interpretation, when I read it, was that it says that those people that were black, Cush, and all his descendants, the beginning of their kingdom was in Babel and some of the Mesopotamia areas down into Africa. And I saw that even that all from the ancient names, a lot of the Egyptians and everything were black. And so I became proud at first event that I was black because of that, because it said the beginning of the kingdom, the beginning. So I saw that the blacks were the first rulers in this earth. Okay, I'm proud I'm black now. But when I read the genealogy of Jesus, I got even angry still. And I got angry because of the Atlantic slave trade. I'm looking at the genealogy of Jesus, and I said, okay, where do I can't connect myself to Africa. I can't even connect myself to my people. So I got angry. I got angry about that. And so anyway, my mother family, they started a family reunion. And when they started the family reunion, and back in my aunt's backyard, what also occurred is when we first had it in the reunion in the hotel, they had these two families, John and Mary and Moses and Hannah. And I said, how the families are connected? And they said, well, we're not too sure. We think this and that. And I said, okay. And they said, well, Dennis, if you want to know, you try to find out. And when they didn't know, when they said that, that was a challenge for me. So what I did is I went and basically traced my the male side on both sides and found out one of them was from the European, more likely the master, through DNA. and then the other was directly through Africa. Same thing when I traced the women. And when I said the males, I'm talking about the Y chromosome. And the Y chromosome go from directly from male to male to male. It does not really change unless there's some mutation. And when I traced the female side, it did the same thing. One went to Africa, and the other went through the Europeans. So more than likely, my great-great-grandmama was probably the master's daughter or somebody's daughter and everything. So that's where I started getting my beginning, is because my mother family, my mama taught us this. She said she believed in family. And what she said is that before she married my father, she said, John, are you going to separate me from my family? He said, no. She said, because if you do that, then I'm not going to marry you. So family, we went to family reunions. The family was over. So she basically is my star, my mother's side. My personality is not a king from what I met. It's more my mama's side. And so my dad came to me about 2003, somewhere around there, a little before that. And he said, Dennis, I need you to go to Virginia. And I need you. At that time, he thought the only living King family member was Patsy King Baltimore, daughter of Magnus King and Robert or Arthur and Louise Lewis. So anyway, Roberts, I'm sorry. And anyway, he knew I was the only one that could. One, my grandfather, his dad, basically, when I was trying to do this, he told me that Dennis, he's too nosy. He's too nosy. Shut him up. He's just too nosy. I'm sorry. Even when I was a child, I was always curious, and I wanted always to, one, go back to Africa because I feel that connection. So they're my people. They are. I'm somehow, somewhere we go back, and there is still maybe some cousins over there. So my grandfather told me, will you shut up? Don't tell that Dennis anything. And so for years, I didn't even do anything or say anything. But to my disadvantage, because Dad didn't take us around the kings, to my disadvantage, when a lot of the Fauquier kings left here, because I'm from two families, meaning that John and Charlotte married, Magnus married twice. He married first a Combs, and then he ended up marrying a Roberts, and I'm from the Roberts line. And in any event, so some of the older families of the first ones was there, but Daddy didn't take us around the kings in the Virginia area, in the Detroit area. And because of that, I was at a disadvantage. So because my daddy did take me to Virginia when we were kids, I took the family to Virginia, that Greg Howard and I became real close. So I would go to Virginia. So Aunt Patsy knew me. So when Daddy asked me this to go to Virginia, he knew I'm the only child that basically had an interest, and not only had an interest, Aunt Patsy didn't know my other siblings, so she wouldn't tell him anything. And when I went to her, she basically was sharing me what she knew as a woman of 90 years of age. And when she was talking at 90 years of age, she gave me this information. She talked about how the kings were up there in African mountain, how they were basically had orchard. And I would ask her these questions. I said, who is this person kin to you? This person kin. She said, boy, shut up. I said, what you mean, shut up? She said, shut up. You should have came almost 30 years ago when I can think. So she would tell me stories and tell us stories. Why? And then next time she know, 15 minutes later, she'd give me the answer. So I finally got it. Okay, Dennis, if you want to hear the answers, you need to shut your mouth and listen to the stories. So she told me some of the relatives that she knew that they were kinfolk. She said Bronson King, Bronson King was of the Culpeper line. She said, Earl King. She said, well, I don't know if Earl is my cousin or not, but I know one thing. He sure looked like my daddy. So I don't know if he's relative. And she mentioned about Moses King. That's of the Peter King line. Now, Earl King is of the Henry and Winnie line. And when I show the presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you basically the family line of all the siblings as much as possible, if I can pull it up on share, and those people that helped me. So anyway, basically, I said, Daddy, we're not gonna, I'm not going to Virginia till we had this reunion. So we had the first reunion in Detroit about 2003. And so anyway, what occurred is, after I was talking to Aunt Patsy, I went to the Fauquier court, I think the courthouses. I went to Culpeper, I went to Rappahannock. I went to all of those areas to find things related to the Kings. And she told me about how the Petersons were kin. She was basically saying that Melinda King, the daughter of John and Charlotte, the sister of Magnus King, how she Melinda Lee married Peter Lee Peterson, and then after his death, she married Cornelius Jack Sr., or she called him affectionately Neely. So anyway, so that's how that was basically somewhat my line, the Petersons, the Kings, and the Petersons with the Jacksons. That represents the John and somewhat the John and Charlotte line. We couldn't find Sarah to this day. She married into the Combs. Magnus married the Combs, and his sister Sarah married the Combs. We still haven't to this day found any descendants from that particular line. So anyway, I went there to Fauquier. When I went there to Fauquier, if I'm going too fast, slow me up. I'm trying to give you everything without referring to my notes, because she only gave me an hour, and I know I can talk probably 2 hours. So anyway, what occurred is afterwards I went there, and we had the family reunion. And when we had the reunion, at that time, it was only the John and Charlotte, because I found a certificate roll where spelled his name Magnus King, which
We can't hear you, Dennis. Hmm. Hmm. We seem to be having a few technical difficulties, but I'm sure Dennis will be back on soon. Thank you for your patience. But it has been some very stimulating conversation from him. Going back to the King, tracing the line, the family lines, and
I might chime in just for a moment. If everyone takes that video off, possibly he's having low bandwidth, that would assist with the streaming. So I'm hoping that would be it. If you can just stop the video.
thank you.
You can get back on shortly. Of the people that are on the call, do you have many of you connect to the King family line? And if so, when did Dennis contact you? Put it into the chat and let's hear from you. And tell us where you're tuning in from.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Jones, and I am a member of the King family through marriage. And my wife, Joyce, who also was as interested as Dennis was in getting involved in this program, of looking up genealogy got us all started. And for out of fate, I guess we ended up at the African-American Society office up there in the Plains, and found a letter from Dennis asking for anybody to know anything about King family to get involved. And so as a result of that, we end up contacting Dennis, and we kind of talked about information, and we got a chance to also communicate in a much more detailed manner as things went on, and start combining what we were finding and what he was finding, and as a result, it's led to this big 2.5-inch book of information regarding the Kings. So I just like to add that to you guys, information bank, and of course, Doris King. He actually is father is Earl King.
Okay.
Okay, great. Dennis, I believe, is coming back on now.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Henry. I mean, Frank. So we're waiting for Dennis.
Okay, we need to unmute Dennis. You did? Okay. If they unmute as well.
Do I need to unmute Karen?
I did that for Dennis, Jerry, so I'm not sure what's going on. He said that he's still muted. Is there something he needs to do from his end?
The microphone icon is, yes. Clicks that. And that's what
Do you see the, okay, great.
No, Dennis.
Okay, Dennis is trying to come back in. I don't know what's up with the feed. Yeah.
I am here, everybody. Please, me wouldn't allow me to unmute to get on the video. When Frank was basically saying something about how he bringing, I was just getting ready to get to that story anyway, how his line came in. So anyway, a lot to go through, and I'm going to cover all the lines, and I know quite a few of the lines are here. So if you give me opportunity, I'll get to your line. Okay, anyway, what occurred is, I think after that first meeting, after that first reunion, I went, because most of the time when I came from and only second meeting, what I did is when I went to the courthouse and everything, I saw Bill Stribling. And at the courthouse, and we've had a very decent relationship ever since then. He has helped me, he and his family, to send a lot of the information that's now in the presence in the book. Their family have given me that. We've taken pictures and everything at their house. Well, on my second trip, I think, or the third trip, before the second reunion, which was in Virginia, I went to the African Plains, I think, museum then. I met Karen and her beautiful staff. And at that time, before I left a note. I'm basically saying, if there's are any other kings, contact me. So before the next reunion, Charles French got in touch with me. And when he got in touch with me, he told me about this family, and they wanted to come to the reunion. That was the Henry and Winnie, which I didn't know at that particular time. And so when they came to the reunion, they decided that they wanted to join with us, and we looked for records. To this day, we still haven't found anything that basically connect us to any documents. Of maybe about 5 of the children of Windsor, we do. That's Bellis King, my line, another Matthew King, and Emily King Ash. They're put on there, and she married Ash, but not only that, some of the children married Brooks. So that line, basically, they had on there who was the parents. So what we did is, when I found out the Henry and Winnie line wanted to join, I asked Frank. I said, Frank and Joyce, I said, okay, we may never prove that how we are connected. Never prove that how we are connected, because with the Civil War, a lot of the records and everything could have been burnt. I said, will your father-in-law, will you or your father take a Y chromosome DNA? I didn't want to do the ancestral one, which is autosoma. I wanted to do the Y chromosome, because the Y chromosome goes from father to son for generations and does not change unless there's some mutation. So he and Earl and I, the late Reverend Earl and I, did a Y DNA chromosome. It was an exact match. So we pulled him in. After we pulled in the Henry and Winnie, Joe Jones, who lived in Leesburg at that time, he said, Dennis, we got a king, Leonard King, that lives across the street from me. And when he lived across the street from me, his family lived in Hume. I think he may be related to us. So when I came to Leesburg and I went to meet the brother, I looked at him, I said, oh, he's related, but let's do a Y chromosome DNA. He and I took it. And also Terry King, who is the son of William King. He and I took a Y chromosome DNA. It was an exact match. So we brought in the Alfred and Francis King line. Now, some of the kings that I'm saying, if you look at the 1870 census and the 1880 census, all the family names I'm saying now, they are on that 1880 census and 1870 census of Fauquier County. Not only that, the Striblings gave me records, and all of the children are listed on those records as well. All the names that I'm saying. So anyway, I think a few years later, what occurred is, I think, I'm not too sure, but Fred Smith that's on there, and he's representing the Albert and Caroline line, and right now he's in Portugal. So he came in to see this presentation all the way from Portugal. So anyway, I think I read something about his article, and he and his line went back to the Stribling plantation, and from 2 of the children, one the master owned one of the slaves and the other one owned the other slave, and they got married right there on the Stribling plantation. And when Fred wanted to do a DNA test. I said, no, Fred. And the reason why I didn't want to do a DNA test with him is because he's from the female line. He's from Susan King line. And I didn't want to do that because sometimes with that autosomal DNA testing, you may not register. Prime example, my brother and I, we have the same mother and father, but we have different matches. So I didn't want to discourage the reunion because it was just getting new. So I didn't want to take the autosomal test from Fred line because it might not proved it. Years later, it did. However, and what I mean by that, once somebody in the male line took a DNA test, and when he took that DNA test, it matched me, and he was from the male line. And because he had his tree on there, I knew he was from the Simon King line, also from the Aberrant Caroline King, which they moved after the Civil War and everything, or before the Civil War. They ran away and went towards Alexandria. From there, they went to Jersey. So when it was only one king member in that line, one male king line in that Simon and King line. And because of Annette Scott, she got me in contact with that male, Maurice King. When he took it, it was a match. Then after that, what happened is we had now Tolliver King. Now, the Striblings gave me a obituary of Tolliver King years ago. And he said, are they kin to you? I said, I don't know. And because Tolliver King line went into the Civil War with the Striblings, and not only went in the Civil War with the Striblings and everything, they gave him some property in the cabinet on the property because they were so grateful and everything. So in that line, somebody matched. Those people never called me back. But anyway, I said, my personal opinion, I said, God, how can I get in touch with these people? They wrote me one time, and I know that they are kin to me. I believe they are the Tolliver King line because I traced where he left Georgia, and he went to Georgia, and he was in a prison somewhere in Georgia. And at that time, he could have just been looking at a chicken and got arrested. So I don't know. But anyway, I knew the Tolliver King went there in Georgia. So what occurred is I was laying up in my bed, and whether you believe in God or not or whatever, something told me, Dennis, get up out of your bed, look on Google, look for her obituary. I got up out of my bed, looked at for Google, and the obituary was there. I called the pastor. The pastor got me in touch with the Tolliver King line. And when he got me in touch with the Tolliver King line, what occurred was they only had one male, just one male that come through that line. We took a DNA test, a Y chromosome DNA test. It was an exact match. So all of those people basically are the Fauquier 1870 records, 1880 records. Those records that was on the Stribling plantation that they gave me, basically all of those males, I found almost and did a DNA test and confirmed they are related. Recently did another DNA test. Now we found the Emmanuel descendants that was in the Fauquier County area. I think because Christine just gave me an hour, I want to unless you got some pressing questions, I want to pull up, if I can, the family tree as much as possible and show you some things. One, how Windsor go back to the 1700s something. At the Adams plantation, from the Adams plantation, he goes through to the Ashbys, and how he goes to the Ashbys. One of the Adams' daughter married into the Ashby family. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right, that was just early in Kush.
Whoa.
I'm sorry, it's 60 some pages. It would have been better if I had a mouse. I'm
You
glad.
do well. See,
All
I
right,
read
see,
it
those are
again.
the 1870 census. You can't see it real well, but you can see some of the names on there, the kings. Okay, this is what I got from the Striblings. If you look there, John, Peter, Alfred and Francis, Tolliver, that is Tolliver King. Louisa, that's probably Henry and Winnie line, because um, Henry and Winnie, he had a son named Charles that married Louise. Okay, this was given from the Striblings plantation. You see the same names up there. If you look, you can see, let me see, Matthew, John, you can see Emily, you can see Francis, you can see many other Evelyn from the line of Evelyn from the line of M. That was Turner's. I'm trying to make sure we get everything. I'm sorry. This is Bellis King. He was the first one that connect me to the Windsor line. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
You're doing good.
Am I doing halfway decent?
Just keep on pushing.
Okay.
got
I can't help
Keep
that.
on pushing.
Dang.
Some way, somehow. You got it, Dennis.
Did I get it? All right. Is it back up?
Yeah, something's there.
Okay, good. All right. And my mouse is working a little better. Okay,
Good.
better. Okay,
Good
here, everybody. This is John Adams' will or whatever. Towards this was on the let's see, what's that? Almost 1781 when they did it did a report on this. Now, I'm failed to say that some of the people that helped me on the Henry and Winnie was Darlene Green, was Frank, and Julia Baltimore from the Albert and Caroline. That was mostly, I think, Fred, with the John and Charlotte, which I'm from. That's basically my Jackie Glenn, plus also Alice Jones. This is where Thomas Adams wills all of his property to his two daughters, all his slaves, you will see. And he is the father of the daughter that married, his daughter married a Ashby. And here goes the document of Windsor King. When he died, he still is owned. It claims that he's still owned by the Ashbys. And here are some of the records I got from also the Striblings and everything. This is when he was rented in 1841. This is just some of the Ashby's genealogy as well. This is an actual document that Windsor was put in a newspaper that the Ashby sent me, not the Ashby, the Stribling sent me not too long ago. And here are some of the family symbols that we chose in the family reunion. These are the children of Windsor.
Wow.
These are the children. And I can't say that actually I wasn't back there. So I'm just going on my research and what I believe. That's all I can do at this particular time. I mean, historians, they would say things like it was blue that day. But in actuality, since they didn't live back there, it may not have been blue. It could have been green to somebody that didn't have enough money or whatever. So history sometimes is reflected by the person who's given it. All right, see, these are the Y chromosome DNA of the families. You see that they all are basically exact match. This is Alfred, and these are his children. Roselle Williams, Winnie Thompson, Roosevelt. Here is the Y chromosome DNA. These showing that exact matches as well. This is the Henry and Winnie line. starting with one of our beautiful peoples, Christine, the Addie line.
Yes, I see. That's right, right on. That's my husband's line, right?
Yeah. Some of
Yeah.
the Proctors live in California and Hawaii. Here's a Sonny King line. So here's the DNA of Earl and I, exact match, Y chromosome.
Mm.
Here's of the Peter King line. Now, Greg Baltimore, he's from both the Peter King line and the John and Charlotte. What tickled me, and Patsy, basically, she said, I came from African mountain. I didn't want to marry anybody up in that mountain because everybody up in that mountain was kinfolk, you know, because they just jumped the fence and had kids, I guess. What tickled me, years later, we found out that through the Lucases, that they, because Peter King, one of Peter King's senior, had Evelyn King. Evelyn King married a Lucas, Silas Lucas, and the Silas Lucas ended up marrying someone, and then his daughter married a Baltimore. So Roland Baltimore was a king as well as he was a Baltimore. So Aunt Patsy married a king as well. We said she would get up out of that grave and just curse. See, we got some some things of the children of and I see I only got 15 minutes. We got Evelyn, John's family. That's my lineage. And on here's death certificate we have here where he's the son of Windsor. We have some of the kings were free, and these are birth certificates of their children. If you look at them, you'll see that they had these children, and they said free before the Civil War. Magnuses, Albert and Carolina, that's one Fred line. Oh, that Henry and Winnie, that's from Linda and Darlene line too, they're on as well. Okay, Matthew, one of the children, he went towards Lynchburg. Emily Ash, that was one of his children of Windsor's children. Here are the children of Emily. James, they married the Brooks. Susie married the Ash. All right, some of this. Tolliver, those are some of his children. Okay, and this is the one we took the exact DNA. Then Bellis King, far as I know, was the last son of Windsor. His baby boy was Norman King from Hume. And somebody just sent me a picture of Reverend Moses King that was of that particular line. All right. I think Christine told me I got to give you some time in case there's some chats or anybody want to ask any particular question. And I'm hoping I did halfway deep presentation. We rushed. We had some technical problems, but I'm hoping that I covered as much. Now, if you want any of this, the documents and everything to look at the family more closely, you're welcome for me to forward them to you.
Thank you, Dennis. That was an excellent presentation. You had a remarkable piece of work there. And I was wondering, you did answer the question if there were descendants who would like a copy of the reunion book that you used to present all of these documents and so forth. Can they have access to that?
Okay, those individuals that want, we're updating it now. Like I told you, I just got a picture of Moses King, and we're using all avenues to find family pictures, because a lot of the home places, they burn with a lot of the original pictures. And so I asked Reverend Charles Jackson, who's of the Peter King line, I asked him for a picture and he looked in the associations and he found a picture for me and sent it. So regarding your requesting with the book is that because this is supposed to be the 10th anniversary, we're probably going to put it in a hard binder, probably.
Okay.
And that because of that, we have, and we're still updating a lot of things. They won't be able to get it to maybe 2003 when we have the King's reunion, probably here in Detroit.
Okay. So the King reunion in Detroit is going to be the which anniversary?
It will be the 10th anniversary of the King reunion.
Okay, and that's when these books would be made available?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So is
All
there,
right, now, go ahead. Are there any more questions? Because I mean, I could have went on. I just was trying to make it short. So because Christine told me to give you all some time, because I could have went on and on.
I have a question. Can you
Yes.
hear me, Dennis?
Yes,
It's
I can.
Fred. Great presentation, by the way. At one point, you and I and some other family members were trying to find who Windsor's descendant was. You remember that, of course.
Yes, and Fred, in fact, I put those records on there. Let me, to answer Fred's question, and it somewhat, is that Fred of the African Carolina line, they are the only family said that we are basically descendants. The King got their names because they are descendants of King. Don't know if that's true or not, but they, through oral tradition, that's what they're saying. What occurred is on one of the records of Captain Nimrod Ash, he did put he put a name King. I have a funny feeling that that was probably Windsor's father. Don't have any proof because we haven't found a actual descendant, and because Nimrod died in an Indian raid, what occurred is his property went to Robert Pierce, and I had his records are vague. So, but I think that's somewhat what Fred is basically saying, and I did put some records on there. Go ahead, Fred.
No, I was just wondering if you had found any records to perhaps reveal who Windsor's ancestors were, either immediate ancestors or, you know, several generations back.
No, only thing, like I said, if you look at the board, I did put somewhat the information on here, and it's saying it's that it was talking about a king, and this he was owned by Nimrod Ashby, and who got killed, and that the king went to Robert Pierce. So I haven't found anything as of this day.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
thank you, Fred. We do have a question in the chat from Angela. It says, I missed when you gave it, but can you give the name of Mr. Jack King's parents?
Jack
She
King,
indicates
sure.
that he's the father of Adie and Sonny. Addie,
You said Jack, Jack, yes.
Jack's parents.
Hold on, please. Just let me see if I can do it quickly with my finger. Is she of the Henry and Winnie line?
She has Addie and Sonny.
So she's of the Henry and Winnie line. All right. Can she see it?
There it is. Thank you.
She got it all?
I'm presuming if she's writing it, it might take a couple seconds to write it down.
Okay, and she's of the, so she knows she's of the Henry and Winnie line. Now, some of the family members basically, while she's writing that down, some of the family members basically came to me and said, oh, we're not related, because my mother and father said we're not related. I shared with them, since we've taken Y chromosome DNA and it doesn't change. I said, not being disrespectful, but if your mother and daddy get from the grave, I would tell them there's a lie. This is the proof. This is the science proof that we are related. And just comment, if we all grew up in basically in now all our families go back to that Fauquier area, we were all in the same area. We didn't have any, we only had a horse and buggy or whatever. You couldn't go anywhere. So you couldn't really even go too many far. So all the people you're gonna marry is right there in your neighborhood.
Right, that's right, that's right.
That's common sense.
Yeah.
When I start getting into my teens, I didn't look for the girls that was in California. I looked at the girls across the street. Come on, that's common sense. We all are related.
That's true. And for those who would be interested, there are past copies of your reunion book here at AAHA. If they might want to call and come by and take a look at it before the 10th reunion. There are copies here.
And not only that, what we do is, because it's a historical book, what we do is we do give it to the historical societies, not just in Fauquier, but in Culpeper, Rappahannock, and few of the other surrounding neighboring counties.
Thank you.
Because
thank
we found information relating to the lines. I mean, the slave master basically had property in Culpeper, and when he needed a slave, he may pull them from Fauquier to work the farm that particular night.
Dennis, this is
Yeah.
Linda. So
Yeah,
does
yes,
the
ma'am.
library in Leesburg have a copy of that?
I'm not too sure. They may have. I know Alice and I went there, and I think they do. If not, we will make sure that they get it. We give it to them the next time. But I think they have. If they have it, they have an older copy.
Okay, I'm gonna check with them and just
Okay.
see.
If not,
Okay.
let me know so we can make sure, especially since this is going to be the 10th anniversary, make sure that they receive one the next time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, again, the time one of the first record of Windsor was John Adams, and that basically up to his death, if you look at it, the Adams still own him, even because the Adams married Ashby, and he died on the Stribling's plantation. And we appreciate Jim and his father Bill and everything to work with us and always open up their doors to us and for us.
Okay, are there any other questions? Any more information from the chat line? Well, Dennis, you did an exceptional job. You were, and despite the technical difficulties, you came back on and you carried us through your journey. You took us from the trail to Windsor, right on down to your front door. So we truly appreciate that. We truly appreciate your time and your effort. And perhaps we'll have you come back in the future to finish what you might have started today. But you certainly added a lot of information. And I'm sure that there are people in the King family who were able to gain a lot of information that was beneficial to them. So again, we thank and appreciate.
I'm sorry about the technical difficulties and some of the things that I was having on my end. I apologize, but I'm hoping that everybody still at least enjoys somewhat the presentation.
I'm sure they did. So we thank and appreciate you very much, Dennis. We truly do. And we look forward to seeing you in these parts when you come back down this way to do some research. Just drop by and say hello to us.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your service. And for those who dropped in, who came to visit us, we thank you so much for your support as always to AAHA and the efforts that we put forth here in trying to tell our story of the African Americans in Fauquier County. So we truly, truly thank and appreciate your presence. Also, we want you to know that on our next presentation will be March 8th. We will have Nichelle Calhoun, and she'll come and talk to us about making the connection from Washington, D.C. to back in the woods of Wardlow in Fauquier County, just west of Warrenton. She'll be with us on March the 8th. And we're delighted to announce that on March 22nd, we will actually have Jim Stribling from the Stribling Orchards, along with Darlene Green. And they will talk to us about their research and the common bond that they found between the families of the Striblings and the Green descendants, which go back to Windsor King. So again, we thank you so much today for your participation, and may you be blessed and enjoy this day. And have a happy 2/22/22. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again,
Thank
everyone.
you. So long, everyone.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. Fred, call me.